Shelby, otherwise known as Shelbizleee here on YouTube, and I'm back today with a story time video. So story time videos are actually some of my favorite videos to watch here on YouTube. I have mentioned before that I don't own a TV and I don't watch any sort of reality television, so this is kind of like my outlet for things like that. In addition to that, I'm sorry I didn't have a Wednesday video for you guys this week. This weekend I went out of town and I've just been really busy, and when YouTube isn't your full-time job and you have another full-time job and you're just doing YouTube as a hobby, it takes a lot of time. I didn't think when I started this it was going to take as much time as it does, but for my Wednesday videos, like thinking them out and like really being serious and thoughtful about them takes time, and then to video it takes time, and then edit it and make the thumbnail and all those things just takes a lot of time, and I'm totally dedicated to doing it. It's just this week it didn't work out for me. So I will definitely be back next week with some videos, and they're going to be higher quality videos and well thought out videos, so I hope you guys can appreciate that and are not mad that I didn't have a video this Wednesday. But if you're new to this channel and you're just watching this story, thank you for coming, and please subscribe to my channel. I do things like this, or I want to do things like this. I'm really new, but every Friday I will upload whatever type of video I want. It's a lot easier for me to just sit down and tell a story than it is to critically think about the social issues. But if you're interested in any of those things, you can watch some of my suggested videos. So if you're interested in a storytime video, this one's gonna be about my creepy roommate, my most recent roommate, and about weird things that happened while I was living with him. So if you're interested in that, without further ado, stay tuned. So last summer I got an internship offer here in Austin, and it was just for the summer. So I was looking and looking and looking for apartments just for the summer, but of course it's very difficult to find apartments just for the summer. Not many people want to draw up a 3-month lease. So it was coming down to about 3 weeks before my start time of my internship, and I was leaving for China for 2 weeks. So I had to hurry up and find something. It was coming down to the wire, and this girl I know that I work with said that she knew someone in Austin that had an open bedroom that I could sleep in, and without talking to this person or doing anything like that, because I trusted her, my friend who suggested this to me, I said, okay, let's do it. So I'm like texting this guy before we move in. He seems pretty normal. I thought he was my age, but turns out later I found out he was really like in his 30s, and I kept asking my friend like, hey, can you give me this guy's number? Before I was talking to him, I'm like, hey, can you give me this guy's number so I can text him or whatever? She's like, he said he messaged you on Facebook. I didn't have a Facebook message, and this was before I found out that, you know, when someone you're not friends with sends you a message, it's in a different folder. So keep that in mind. So I'm like looking him up on Facebook by the name she tells me. She gives me his first and last name, and I can't find him anywhere, which is super weird. So for this video, we'll just call him John. So eventually I get John's number and I'm texting him, and like I said, he seems pretty normal. And also, like I said, I was in China, so the day I got back from China, the next day I started this job. So first thing that happened that was weird was I got up at 8 a.m. on my first day to go to work, and he was supposed to get up at 8 a.m. to go to work too because he worked at Apple. But he didn't get up, and he, like when I left the house, he was still in his room, which was like, okay, whatever, fine. But then I come home and he's still in his room, so it was like he didn't leave for the day, or he went in late and came home really early. I don't know, weird. And at the time my partner was living with me, and she said that he hadn't gotten out of his room all day. Like he hadn't gone to the bathroom, he hadn't went to work, nothing. So that was one day that went by, but this lasted for about 4 days. So we just moved in with this guy, we don't know him, and he's basically barricaded himself in his room, which is what's creepy to me, because in the back of my mind I started thinking the most awful things. Don't know why my mind goes there, but I started thinking like maybe he's dead, like maybe something happened to him and he's in there and we don't know him, and we're in this apartment without a lease. Like what if we get involved in whatever's going on with him? So I was freaked out about that. But then 4 days go by and he starts acting like a normal human again. Things were kind of normal-ish during the beginning of everything. Like we would have casual conversations with him and like talk to him in passing and stuff like that. But then one day after we were staying with him for about 3 weeks, we're like hanging out in the living room and he's in there too, we're just talking, and he starts telling us all this stuff like about his family. Like he tells us he doesn't talk to his mom and he doesn't talk to his dad, and he tells us that his brother is dead, and then things start to get weird. So I still don't really understand the context of this story. It still like boggles my mind to this day, but basically he tells us that his brother was dead and they couldn't find him for like 30 days. And then he proceeds to tell us that when they did find him, he had obviously been dead for a very long time, and he walked in and he can still remember the smell of death, like when they found his brother, which led me to believe that he was the one to have found his brother, right? And he said that he was laying there in his own blood, and that his blood had gotten very thick and goopy. And he proceeds to tell us, like it's completely freaking normal, that he saved part of his brother's goopy blood from when he found him dead, and he keeps it in like this petri dish somewhere in his house, which is already really fucking weird. It's weird to think about it now even still. Anyway, so it gets worse. So there's this bookcase over here of like all of his books that he has, and he walks over to one and he picks it up and he said, "This was my brother's book. I found this in his house when he was dead, when I found him dead." And he opens this book and he inhales very deeply and he goes, "The book still smells like death. Isn't that so cool? Do you want to smell it?" No? What? So that was very bizarre and I had no idea how to react to it. But like I said, luckily my partner was staying with me at the time and we just kind of were like, haha, yeah, we're gonna go to bed now. So then after that, some other weird things kept happening. The next thing that happened was one night my girlfriend was awake in the middle of the night and she was working like nights at this time. Like she worked from I think like 2 p.m. till like midnight or something like this. And so she would come home and she would be up pretty late because she could sleep late into the next day. And so she's on her phone and she said it stopped working, like it started acting weird. So she goes into her Wi-Fi settings to like reconnect to the Wi-Fi or see what was up with the Wi-Fi. And she said that the Wi-Fi name had changed from whatever it was to now it was Black Death with numbers behind it. Like something Black Death something. And I remember she woke me up and she was like, "Look at this, what the fuck is this? Like why would this be happening in the middle of the night?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't know, that's creepy, that's like some hacker shit." And like I said, he worked at Apple, so he was a tech guy. So after that happened, we told him like what happened, we told him, and he's like, "Oh, I know what that could be, I'll fix it." How do you know what that is and how are you going to fix it unless it was you, right? So he fixes it, and so then in my mind I'm like, you hacked the Wi-Fi, you hacked our phones, like you did something sketchy. Like that was very strange to me. And so we're living with him for all this time, right? And I'm not friends with him on Facebook. I don't know why I never got his Facebook message that my friend told me he sent me. So I'm in my phone and I noticed that I'm in my messages on my Facebook and I noticed that there's another like message box. And this is like maybe like there's like a month left of us supposed to be living with him, right? And I look at this other box and I go into it and there's this message from this random person with this random name that was like something Hendrix or something that was not his name, but it was his profile picture. So that was weird. It was like, "Hey Shelby, this is blah blah blah." His name that he told, like I knew him as John. We'll call him that. But like his Facebook display name was not John, it was something different. And so I was like, that's very weird. Like, who does that? And then very bizarre, right? So then I start getting creeped out, like, is he trying to hide from something? Like, what is that all about? I don't know. So then another thing that happened was my girlfriend was home one day, like I said, she worked late, so she would sleep late, and he's walking around the house yelling, "Hello, hello," like trying to get someone's attention. She doesn't answer because she's like asleep or wants to be. And he comes and knocks on the door and she doesn't answer, and he opens the door anyway. So she's in there with her shirt off and he's just like, "Oops," and like closes the door and runs out of the house, leaves the house. And we never talk about any of this stuff. Like none of this stuff that happens we ever talk about. So then the same thing that happened the first few days we lived with him happens again, but only this time it's for 2 weeks. Like for 2 weeks he's in his room, he doesn't come out of his room, and we're starting to really think something is wrong. And we come home one day and there's a business card like attached to the little mail clip like they have on apartments, and the back of the card says Dad and has a number on it, and the front of the card has the guy's last name is the same last name as John. So it was his dad, which is weird, right? Because he told us he doesn't talk to his parents. So then the thing continues on where he's not leaving his room, he's not going to work, I don't even hear him using the bathroom. And then all of a sudden we're in the living room one night because it was during the primaries. This was last summer, so the primaries are really heating up, and the only thing I really ever use the TV for is to watch like debates live. So I'm in there watching the debate, and all of a sudden someone comes knocking on the door. And I don't mean like just a knock on the door, I mean like it was, and they're yelling his name like, "John, open this door right now, John!" And so I'm like, I'm not opening that. So I go and I wake him up, and he's in his room like passed out. Like when he did get up, he was like, like he couldn't speak, and he couldn't really stand up. He like flopped out of bed, but he probably hasn't been eating in like a long time. So either, you know, just out of that pure like situation was probably causing him to act funny. And he had recently bought like blackout curtains and just like very not in a good mental place, right? So he goes and opens the door, and who else is it but his mom, So his mom comes in and is like talking to him in his room for hours. And then I don't know, in my head he was suicidal and she was coming over to help him. So then she starts babying him. She takes him to get groceries. She's like cooking for him. And she basically moves in with us. She's living in this 2-bedroom apartment. Mind you, he stays in one room. Me and my partner stay in another room. She's living in the living room, sleeping on a lawn chair, like a patio chair you would have outside your house. And she's there all the time. And he's there all the time because he stopped working and she's moved in to, like, I would imagine, watch him, make sure he doesn't hurt himself. So what ended up happening with that is we were really scared. Like, I was very afraid that his mental state was not right and something weird was going on. Like, he had lost his job, but then he was buying like drones. Like, there was a drone that randomly came up in the living room. Just, I don't know, like, how do you just not go to work for 2 weeks? You can't just not go to work for 2 weeks. So this carries on and on and on, and they're like living together la-di-da, and he's just always in his room, always locked in his room. And then one day decides to ask my partner and I for more money. So we were staying there and only paying like X amount of dollars. He told us it was for the rent and it would include our electricity. But then randomly, towards like literally we had 2 weeks left of living with this kid, he tells us that the electricity has tripled since we've been here and he needs us to pay it. Which is very unbelievable because literally it was always so hot in that apartment. I don't know how in the hell the electricity could have tripled. So basically what happened is we were really scared. We didn't have the money to give him and we basically packed up all of our stuff and left. We left our key on the counter, we took all of our stuff and basically ghosted him because I was terrified. I couldn't sleep for weeks because I didn't like it just seems like who does that? You're not in the right frame of mind to be doing these strange things. And I didn't even know who he was and I kept finding out more and more stuff that was like, who are you and what are you doing? So we left and we ended up sending him a text message a couple days later like, hey, don't know if you've noticed, but we moved out early. The money that you're asking for is basically the money that we would already gave you for rent for the last 2 weeks, so you can just take it as that. And that was it. He never texted us back. He never tried to contact us again, thankfully, and I haven't heard from him since. So that was my creepy roommate story. That was the last of 3 random roommates I've had, and I will never have another random roommate again. I've literally been through so much with all of my random roommates that it's traumatizing, and so never doing that again. If you guys are interested in my other roommate stories, they were just as bad, but at the same time, like, not in the same way. They were just very well, one of them was very disrespectful and the other one was loopy, like justifiably loopy. Leave me a comment down below if you've had any weird roommate stories. I know a lot of people had them in college when you get randomly assigned people in the dorms, and that's when I had a couple of mine. But I'm super interested to hear your stories. Like I said, this is one of my favorite types of videos to watch on YouTube, so if you guys have any story times you want me to watch, I will watch them. I love them. Just link them below. And I will be back next week with some better quality videos. Actually, I am filming on my sister's Canon T3 right now, and this is the camera I really want to buy for myself. She let me borrow it for the next 2 weeks, so I'm going to try to get a lot of really good videos out to you guys while I have it. Hopefully I will be able to purchase one of my own soon, but I have started a GoFundMe in case anybody who watches me is interested in helping me like get there, like get the quality filming equipment that I need. So it'll be linked in the description below. All of my social media is also linked in the description below. If you want to contact me and get to know me better and I can get to know you, you can contact me on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And until next time, create the peace. I thought, what else would I be talking about other than the first presidential debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton?